Michael Harner's book, he's got a story right in there. He went to a cave that the natives told him to go to. They told him, you don't got to take no substances. You don't got to do nothing. Just bring some food, this food. And then when you eat it, once you're done, leave a little bit out. He was in the cave. It was all pitch black. Got late at night. Then it got about 2 a.m. He was thinking nothing was going to happen. Then a spirit came through so strong. He felt the strength in his body. And then it said, "I am bison," and then rolled through. You see what I mean? So these are spirit animals. Now, somebody who can't handle that energy, because there's stories about that too. They told him, hey, if you don't leave the cave, whatever you do, anybody who's left the cave before the morning time, it didn't go well for them. So there's always, these are real things, in contrast to what we see going on in reality with the play, these are real things. So you approach the ancestor bison. I was even seeing today, this all rings in. They had this billionaire. He's like 6th richest man in the world from India. He's got this zoo and he's taken all of these animals, especially the elephants, the lions, the tigers that were slaved and stuff like that. And he's created like the most advanced. I mean, the humans don't have anything this advanced. They even use an AI. They got the spa they got the the infrared treatment for arthritis, all that, right? And they show even how the elephants went and took the chains that they were in and threw the change, like don't have to change around us. You see what I mean? So it's just realizing, hey, not only are these animals sentient, but people are also developing relationships with these beings, offsetting karma. All of Africa is full of using these entities to do a variety of things, sometimes, and most of the time, shenanigans. That's in the degrees of the spirit. But when we're talking about, again, these pure totem animal aspect of things, they say one of the main benefits, because there could be many, but their ability to travel through the different worlds and the different planes. Like they try to make maps for how to get into certain spaces, but they always note that the power animals seem to not have the restriction in getting into certain spaces, so they often ride them. So I just, I wanted to add that in there, because we definitely have a lot with our ancestors. I'm gonna throw up some images here, just of that lion energy, because this is a lot of, but again, when we go into it deep, we often see, and this is why it becomes like, you see the rebellion, as I said before, but you also see many of the great fathers. You see that lion-like nature, right? And then you also still witness other cultures. And I got like a whole book on this that just shows in facial features how animalistic features are built within faces. And you could see it more a long time ago. You can also see clearly that a lot of the, certain races were really mating with certain livestock or had seemed to become offspring of a certain livestock. But then again, like I said, it all goes right under the carpet, because it's like, oh, okay, well, no, the animals they're lower than us. That's the main thing that'll come out. But if they're lower than us, that still makes them part of the foundation that we grew from. You see what I mean? But then again, when we're also looking at the animals, because we're looking at it also something else in a physical body, it still may be closer than some of the chimeras, but we're also looking like in these images where you see Buddy is clearly, he's tapping into something totally different, right? So we have spirits and entities moving around, and then one has to still, this is a culture. So what we also find is a lot of times a person will come from one culture and then try to practice the rites and the rituals of another culture. And this was also talked about in this book, and how sometimes the cultural ancestors of that person won't accept those people coming into their domain, just as animals may be territorial. There may have been a conflict in the past with that person's race. So, I always find that the exploration of the other world in the Middle Earth, if you may, always renders some really, really fat gems inside the reality to connect the dots. You know what I mean?
No, indeed. Yeah. Wow. Shit, y'all. Seven just keeps coming with these receipts and these images, man.
I keep
Seven, man, with these images, man.
I would just like to DJ Rod, you know what I mean? As far as like, when he done, because I got images for days, right? I got AI.
Man.
It's like real time receipts, you know what I mean? Because this is also, just to speak to, even you had mentioned AI earlier and all this kind of stuff, even beyond that, like real-time education, because what I'm realizing, you can't convince a fool of anything. So you'd be a fool to even try. So sometimes we're really arguing or trying to prove a point to people who didn't even have a good upbringing, right? Didn't even have mom there or a dad there or a school of hard knocks or, a prison old head or somebody there to help them go through the process. And now here they are, and they're at that level of awareness. And it's like, so now you have to take the role of like the teacher, but from the basic school, like, here, we're going to start off with pictures. Let me show you how really underneath all of this or beyond this face, there's characters. We got animals, we got traits, and we got paths. We got some basic ones like the tarot, the 22 path, because that was the last one that came out, right? But then once you kind of fold back into that, now you have your original ancestral, like ancient one kind of path to walk, which takes some maturity, it takes some adepthood. Now you're entering into, the sanctum, if you may. But it's still all set up to, if a person is going through that process and then they have, like, you just having that willingness to learn, right, and not be like, yo, yeah, I'm not shutting I'm not believing any of that. Because here's one thing that I wanted to mention before we even taper off on the show. One, even about the Jesus thing. Let's say, for instance, that I'm growing up back in the God time, and I'm really doing what this tells me to do, this scripture about God. Some guy then comes and says, hey, follow me now. I'm going to be your way to God. What kind of sense would it ever make? Like, do you really believe somebody devout would follow somebody else? That's everything that they're being told not to do. You see what I mean? So a lot of times we have to be able to be the fly on the wall in certain situations and be like, something ain't adding up here. It can't be like that because of this. And so that's my approach also when I'm dealing with this ancient knowledge is I've been able to like drive around the whole territory of occultism and also even avoid many of the pitfalls, but still learn what exactly is going on in there by simply having an awareness and a mindfulness in the heart that wants to actually give to others and see them increase. But if you look all day at an image of somebody suffering, psychologically, you can't imagine that one day you wouldn't want to see somebody else suffer, okay? And let's just talk about from a psychological level, like this man is suffering on this cross. And this is the image. Not to mention how much damage it could do for a child to think that the father who loves it so much would actually sacrifice it for anything. So these kind of concepts in themselves break the very fabric of the foundation to how, we really look to one another. Like when they say, hey, love each other and love one another and all that kind of stuff. Like this scripture says he hates Esau, but Esau is his own son. So when the world is mixed with these confusions, because that's what we're seeing right now, we're seeing the confusion of the true language of what goes on inside of us. And then now we have this grand renaissance, even going into 2025, we have this big time where all the information and everything is being revealed. That's obviously got to be for something. And, and that's why, I'm giving thanks again for being here, being able to still transmit this message is like, 17, 16 years now. And just being in the space, but also still learning. Like I saw somebody put in there Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Or Obi-Wan, just show you how the OB is still there. And if you understand that, so all of those, but even that, it's like there's never an end to this awareness and learning. It just becomes another piece to a puzzle that allows you to see a much more bigger picture. So yeah, I just wanted to.
I like to say, Seven, I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. I can show it to you, but I can't help you realize what it means.
Yes.
Right. I understand that smart people sound totally insane to dumb people. And if you're trying to tell a dummy what to do, he ain't gonna never understand it because he's not gonna understand structure, discipline. That's what makes him a dummy. Right? Willful neglect of the responsibility of self-development. They refuse to do anything that's going to make them better people. When the only way out of here is to improve what you was to become what you need to be.
Exactly.
Right? So that means that the real person on the cross is you. You trying to crucify your ego self to free you from the crucifixion, to liberate you into the reality of your choosing in order for you to develop your best life from your worst case scenario that you emerge from.
Exactly.
And the reason it was you, because you were strong enough to take it, period. Because if you ain't strong enough to take it, it wouldn't be your responsibility. When you go to the old Proverbs of the ancestors, they say that the strongest one must carry the heaviest load. Why they tell us that? Why is that a part of the historical record of the oral tradition? They also say the one who know the way must lead the path. That's not optional. They say he must lead the path. Right. So the person that find their way out from the mental bondage is responsible to try to free as many other his brethren as possible. Each one teach one, we all gonna reach some. Right? So when we start dealing with the cognitive dissonance, the rebellion comes in the form of player hater. Look, and my philosophy is this. It feels better to congratulate than it do to player hate. At least to me it do.
It does, definitely.
I'd rather have Seth Bowman on here and had this conversation and give him his flowers in front of everybody than to be on my channel talking about that nigga ain't. that don't feel good to me.
Yes.
This what we doing feel good to me.
Yeah.
This what feel right. So this is what I'm gonna do. Right? And then lead by example. Right? Rich bring us all together.
So I got two more questions before we get out of here, y'all. Absolutely amazing show. We're about to hit the 2-hour mark. I'm gonna go a little bit over, but I gotta get out of here after that, family. And I don't want to keep, I don't know what both Rod and Seven got planned tonight.
But you're the one with the new baby, so we on your time.
Yeah. Listen. All right. Listen. You're referencing ancient Egyptian texts coming forth by day, right? We hear about these stories of when you leave this realm, when you die, your heart gets weighed against the feather. It's the judgment scene. Your heart gets weighed against the feather, right? All right, so this is a dream. This is an illusion. This is the Maya. There's many names for this realm that is not real. It's holographic. Many names for it throughout many cultures. This is a dream. Another version of a dream is when we go to sleep at night. Now, when we go to sleep at night, Seven, Rod, Brother Rich, whoever else out there, we may do all types of shit in our dream. When we wake up from that dream, we don't get judged by the karma from that dream. We don't say, oh, I chopped off a nigga's head in a dream. Oh, I got to watch my back in this realm. Or, we don't give a F what happens in that dream because we realize it is for what it is. It's just a dream. So how does our dream when we go to sleep at night, because we know it's just a dream, so all of a sudden these advanced coaches, this is supposed to be a dream, then they tell us there's a judgment scene after the dream. How's it a judgment scene after this dream when there isn't a judgment scene after the dream that we had when we was in the bed at night? Somebody got to explain it to me.
Look, Rich, the different realms got different rules.
Yeah.
The rules in the dream realm is more freedom than you could possibly imagine, but 3D is restricted by rules. Right? We call them the 7 Hermetic principles. And these 7 principles tell you also how to perceive or what lens to look through when you viewing the structure of how life is laid out. The only reason we got consequences is we need resistance. Only reason we need resistance because the resistance makes us grow. It's life resistance exercise. It's the same as lifting weights, but you live in your life, you got to be stronger for the next part. So you got to go through this hard part to make you strong enough to carry the weight of the next part. You got to develop into the character you need to be in order to carry the weight you're supposed to carry. And it's all archetypically driven. And you can see the archetype of yourself as you develop in the mythologies in the fairy tales of the world, even in the comic strips, right? When you begin to identify with all of those comics, how do God think? God don't look at the hero in the cartoon and think it ain't him. Whoever the hero is, that's me. I'm Sun Wukong. I'm Hanuman. Right? I'm the one the guys fear. Call me Nimrod. Right? All of this stuff is when you start viewing from different angles, you see more. And the more angles you can see from, the more you can understand the reality. So in the dream realm, you don't have the restrictions of the 3D realm because you in 4D mind matrix called the astrals.
Okay.
Right? In the astrals, shoot, you can make a snowball turn into a ball of fire and kill a dragon.
Wow.
But if you try to turn a snowball into a ball of fire in 3D, it's gonna melt.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's that new fake snow. I don't know what that stuff be doing. It be resistant fire. I don't know where that's
and also quiet is kept a lot of that you be seeing in the dream do still really connect into the subconscious mind. Like when the dream speaks a language where you have to begin to translate what you're seeing in the dream back into the language that you speak in this reality. Cause I find the dream to be like, yo, this, and, continue to show you a symbol, but you've already associated that symbol in your mind with a specific thing in this reality. So it's like aligning the two languages, because once you then kind of see where the metaphors be going in at, you see why you chopped off the dude's head and everything. And but the whole thing don't be nothing about like that you really went at him and cut off his head. It could be something like there was something that was on him and then you removed it and now it's not there. So there's always a deeper message in those dreams. I find in some of them dreams be straight what I call bandwidth overlays, where they could just, like keep hearing songs all the time, same song, because look at when you see the wavelengths that we sit on, a lot of that, like we talked about, be radio stations. But I feel like a lot of times, I get what I call like a Wi-Fi dream. You know what I mean? It's like you can tell some of these dreams. See, I feel like also, and that's why I'm loving to, and as I said, I'm gonna drop this one off tomorrow because it's already on wax, but I'm loving to see now how every day, so the ritual that we put ourselves in as humanity was to be on these 7-day weeks. And if you go all over the world, you'll still notice that they're on this system is a system of a certain way, and these numbers come out a certain way. And I felt like that once I had cracked into these numbers, that was the real check back system. It would let you know what matrix you're in, what kind of geometry is being used in that matrix, because there's so many worlds and so many existences, and we can go into different ones, right? That was the journey. Like coming into physicality, I feel like this is wonderful to be able to be an infinite being, and then to come into something finite, you basically done the impossible. You see what I mean? I believe that we're sometimes more afraid of living forever than we are dying. Meaning to actually cut off and then start over and then come back in. You can clearly tell some people need to kind of hit that reset button versus living in the continuum. And also it talks about like a lot of these beings, like in that priestcraft, they don't have that. They live outside of time. So they've been weathered for thousands and thousands and thousands of years of seeing the experiences going on inside of something that's still relatively turning in a circle and reproducing the same thing over and over again. The number itself, 142857, this is the root to the number. Then it gets all into the netherworld. It gets into the 9. It gets into Osiris. It gets into the potentiality that we've already entered into Aloka. While people may be expecting to have died, they don't realize how fast and quick the twinkling of an eye of a dimension transfer really is. And then now, that's why I said the goal would be to raise the dimension up just one notch, raise every person up just one notch from where they're at, rather than like try to blow them all the way through the ceiling. And then at the end of the day, if you can just, raise a whole consciousness, it's almost like dislodging a wheel. Then the wheel starts moving and turning again. Then the vibration, like I have been noticing, and they have reported this, I don't believe in it, but that the earth is now even a little more tilted, right? I had this big question when I was looking at the numbers. I was like, so why are we on the 365 versus the 360? And then the narrative that came around that was all about the Julian calendar and all this kind of stuff that they was saying. But that's not why. It's because if you observe the sky, you'll notice it takes 365 and a quarter days for us to make a complete turn around the sun. And that's what we're measuring. And in the matrix, the sun is spraying out the matrix. This is what you see when you open the third eye. The sun is really the big player in this because it's holding in the clouds, right? And all of what that is holding even when we laying in the bed sleep and we're like pushing up gas. And that's why I feel like that they didn't used to have these flat roofs even, because even when you're asleep, if you were sleeping in a cone, all of your essence will gather up into that cone and be a part of that cone. And then that's something more focused to travel with. You see what I mean? Like, look at how even obelisks are built, or certain structures where there's clear genuflection going on with the entities that correspond with that ley line, because the vibrational frequencies is honing in on that point, right? But what are you doing? What is all this for? It's for communication. And communication is not just, hey, give me some message about the future or what's going to happen or whatever happened. It's also, let me share in the essence of what you are, and you share in the essence of what I am. So it's almost like a galactic sex, if you may, where you inherit still anything that you come across. You inherit a certain part of their traits, their memory banks, and this kind of thing. And the more that your energy increases, it was getting to a level that when I was looking in people's eyes, you were getting all the data, at least on the front of their head, which was where they was keeping the most precious things, their little trinkets, their children and all that. And this is why anybody who's a master seer can come up and say something about you that nobody knows. And remember that time you fell in the bathroom and broke your leg and you was the only one in that bathroom? Like, how does this person even know that? Because you're still wearing it up here. So when we start going beyond again that, hey, this is, all contained, what it really is managed. That's what a governor is. The body is set up like a pentagram, Lord Governor, where, as Rob was saying, you got rules here. Like there's a sheriff badge. Like you can't have full access to the vehicle like on the astral plane, right? Where you have even some access, right? But then the goal is what? To be completely free, to be completely unified. Down further, if you may, if we want to say a direction, it's more confinement, more restriction, more dominion. Higher, you're getting, you're opening up, you're becoming a part, more of everything, all is self. You see what I mean? And then you get the keys to the wheel, and that, or basically the keys to the car to drive the wheel. What is the wheel? The calendar. 365 and a quarter, you can drive this vehicle if you get them keys, literally, right? Oh, but then if not, you're just on these training wheels, you falling off, you bumping over, you staying off in one constellation, all that kind of stuff until, your guide comes. You know what I mean?
Wow. Woo, amazing conversation. I want to real quick before I ask this last question, I want to share 7 Bomar's links. I just put it in the chat. Make sure y'all click on it and check out the brother's AI. He has this AI called Sybil. 7, if you could explain what Sybil is real quick before we close out the show.
For sure, just real fast. So,
So I want to ask y'all, there's a lot of confusion in this realm down here. People get involved in the spirituality, and it doesn't have to be New Age or esoteric. It could be the church. It could be religion. And everybody says they want to be a good person, right? They try their hardest to be a good person, raise their children to be a good person. And a common thing that people see happening is bad things happening to good people. So we have this phrase, why do good things happen to bad people? People always say that. Why do good things happen to bad people? Now we're taught in this community that reality is a mirror. Reality mirrors who you are. Reality is a mirror. But you know what? The gangster a lot of times lived longer than the boy that was going to school. The boy that was going to school caught the stray gunshot and the gangster stayed alive. The nigga that was in the gang lifestyle. So how is reality a mirror when the gangster stayed alive and the boy that was going to school died? It seems like reality, the mirrors ain't mirroring in this reality. So somebody explain to me, how is reality a mirror when the good boys die and the bad boys stay alive? Talk to me, y'all, to end the show.
When somebody good has suffered something, then there's definitely something deeper happening there. I just believe that even when we talk about good and bad, we're still in that very childish state where we just think that it sums up to that. This is why, we continuously find more and more evidence, like the people who are controlling things and making it hard for people. These people are thriving. Why? I always account this to every realm, just like our brother Rob was saying, has its rules. If you enter into their game, quote unquote, you need to understand how to play. I see a lot of times cats get their paint knocked off because they are practicing the same thing that they're speaking against. Like they be coming in, acting like they're going to enlighten everybody, but then be stepping into the Jesus thing too and believing in that. You see what I mean? And then when something happens, it's like, well, wait a minute, that was the good person, that was the bad person. You got to be like, there's a scripture about them that Moses was following the angel and watching this angel do all this crazy stuff. And he thought the angel was evil. But then in the end, when the angel explained why he did things, he was able to see that he was actually averting other much more greater disasters. So a lot of times, and also just our standard, I never really seen anybody become something great that haven't been through something. And a lot of times good people have that continuous lesson of learning how not to be taken advantage of. These are two totally different things. Like being adept means that if somebody comes and says, hey, let's go and do this, you're really still scanning that to see if that's going to compromise your soul rather than just being this nice and good person like, oh, okay, I believe that that's okay. Right. So there's this side to where we need to grow, where we need to be very serious about what we're doing. And the thing about it is you'll notice that people who you're calling evil or bad people, one thing that they have made their mind up on is being exactly who they are. Sometimes in the world, being who you are takes you further than being who you are not. And a timid person has a tendency to be in some kind of altered state of consciousness or a character versus their original self. And the journey in itself is to get back to their originality. It's basically Amagi, to go back into the womb where there's no debt. But to be able to enter back into that state, you also gonna go through a whole process of clearing and moving things. And that's gonna feel like turbulence. And if it's not, that means ain't no real lessons being learned. I like what Rod said, like, oh, the strong really are going to make it through this. That's what our ancestors have going on here. It's like they're breeding up in that way. And so, yeah, I mean, but again, if we have this idea that it's all like, airy fairy and loving and all this kind of stuff, like we will maybe forget the chastisement that even our parents gave us that actually made us even the people that we are right now, versus watching another kid who's basically not getting any kind of chastisement and they don't even seem to be growing at all. So that's just me weighing in, on what you're asking.
Excellent, my brother. Right, close it out, my brother.
Everything in life is about cause and effect. Right? When you see the gangbangers shooting at each other, you're looking at war. In war, they have a term called collateral damage. The collateral damage is the civilian who had nothing to do with the conflict, who caught the stray bullet, who put him down. Right? Now, do you get mad at the soldiers for fighting a war, or do you get mad at the bystander for being at the wrong place at the wrong time? Right? So you have to look at all things are converging. How do you shock the consciousness of the people in order for them to demand change? You need what's called an emotionally polarizing event. In the current lifestyle we live in, you are constantly bombarded with emotionally polarizing events to the point now we've become numb to them. Nobody didn't tell us that the good don't suffer. That's not true. Good don't suffer probably more than the bad. The reason why the bad normally don't suffer as much as the good is because they bold enough to step out on who they is and do they dirt in the open, straight up in your face. They don't care about none of the other rules to the game because they're down applying their applied will to deviate from the course that the game was telling them to follow. You don't know nobody that's all good or nobody that's all bad. I done sat at the table across from serial killers and seen cold death in their eyes. And all of the time, they are just happy to be in my presence, make me feel good. Right? So ain't nobody all good, ain't nobody all bad. And every event is to use as a marker to determine what needs to be changed in the society. If you want the innocent to stop getting killed, you got to put an end to the war. Because then you don't have collateral damage when you're not at war. Right? And now you have to figure out who is the warring faction so that you can negotiate the peace between the two.
Exactly.
Right? And it's an ongoing balancing of energies throughout your life, and the better you become, the higher your spiritual rank is, until you get to the point where you at the pinnacle, at the top of the pyramid, the all-seeing eye.
Yeah.
Right? Because you become Cyclops, the one-eyed giant, standing on the shoulder of other giants. You can see further than them all. Right? And this is how the energy doesn't discriminate against who we think is good or bad. The energy is going to execute the program regardless of who's standing in the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what Mama used to say, bullets ain't got no name on them. Until they got a name on them.
Rod, you cold-blooded. You ain't have to say that at the end of the show. You said Mama said bullets ain't got no name. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Bullets ain't got no name until somebody put a name on them.
Listen, gentlemen, I gotta say this. This was an absolutely amazing, you got black people stress the amazing show. Oh my God. I loved it. Y'all loved it. Yo, listen, Rod Hayes, 7 Beaumont, and Rod Hayes, what's your Cash App, brother? Because I know you somebody asked earlier, and I know you, what's your Cash App, brother?
Me?
Yeah.
$sign SikApe, SIKAPE. Mine is the one that was started in 2017, if you get confused. It's the oldest one of them, because it got some people that be trying to do that player hater stuff.
Oh, I know the scam artists out there. Is SikApe what? I'm gonna write it in the chat. SikApe what?
$sign SIKAPE. Capital S and the capital A.
And 7, you're in Costa. You don't deal with Cash App, right?
No, I mean they can, really just check out the app. You know what I mean? We're here, and yeah, man. I just want to also say, man, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Like I didn't know what to expect, but greatness from the show.
Yeah.
We're coming in. It's already it's December 19th. Man, this year went by fast.
Super fast.
We already in January almost. So this sets the pace really nice.
Hey, let me ask you this. I know I said that was the last one. Is there any reason, or am I looking too deep into it, why they're releasing Lion King around the winter solstice? They're releasing Lion King again. Some people may not.
The Lion King, the story of Osiris. Right? In the Christmas solstice.
The movie Mustafa, for those who don't know. Rod, yeah.
But that's the story of Heru rising up to become Osiris. The sun becomes the father ruler on the throne. Exactly. The winter solstice is the lowest energy of the planet at that time. Exactly. Why it's the winter solstice, it symbolizes the death of Earth, and then spring comes and she's born again. Right? So they coincide with telling the story of the fallen father in the underworld as he fights his way through the hero's journey, following the fool's journey, as above, so below. And as the father makes his journey through the underworld, the sun rises up in the physical world. Right? So it's all symbolism based off ancient Hermetic science. Right? The holy drama, the Assyrian Resurrection story. So this is what the whole Mufasa, that's why the Rafiki took the cub to the water and he's seen his father's face in his reflection.
Yeah.
The son becomes the father.
Yeah. Indeed. Excellent. Listen, family, we're getting out of here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure you support Rod Hayes on the Cash App. Make sure y'all support Seven Beaumont with the links I posted in the chat. I am indefinitely getting the AI masterclass. I want to support you, Seven. I don't want you to say, I'll give it to you, Rich. Don't worry. No. I want to support Seven. I don't want to hear that. Brother Rich, y'all said, don't worry. No. I want to support my brother. Because, you know, that's how we do. You know what I'm saying? And what he does, I keep telling y'all, it's so important. We don't have nobody in that space like that. I don't want to say.
You know, it was the brother that created AI in the beginning anyway.
Exactly.
It was the brother who created the cell phone in the beginning anyway.
Yeah.
Even when the brother that created the internet.
Yeah. When I first woke up, there was a dude in the barbershop with me in Atlanta. And that's why I'm saying Atlanta got something going on too. When I was even at the comedy club, as I mentioned, everybody that was in that room ended up becoming something. So there's always something else going on if you're paying attention. But I was always getting my hair cut at the barbershop, and I wasn't at where I'm at all, but I always kind of had something going on. Right. This dude was coming all the time in a bulletproof Mercedes. He was just sitting there, and I guess he just got so tired they listened to me not know what I was talking about. He was like, look, man, did you know Black man created the first laser disc? A Black man created the first computer chip. He said, man, I went up in a mineralized cloud with some indigenous men, and 1,000 years seemed like one day, right? So he was just going in about all this, right? And I'm thinking like, I like this, what he's saying, but I definitely don't believe it. So check it out. It's always an anniversary for me on December 22nd, because that's when the whole thing happened to me. It was the 22nd, the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th, in that range, which we're about to go over right now. When I was done with that process, the first person I was looking for was that guy, because it seemed like he was the only one that I had come in contact with that seemed to know something about what was going on with the activation. So I asked my barber, I was like, yo, I need to talk to that dude. I found the dude's name is Winston. That's all I was able to find out. He said, Winston? And I said, yeah. He said, are you sure you want to talk to Winston? Because what you're telling me, you may not want to talk to Winston. And I said, why? He said, well, and if I get the story straight, he was like, when Malcolm had the court case, basically, none of the attorneys will represent him. So the government sent in Winston. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? So basically it was saying, hey, you know, these people but I'm just saying that all these are touch points. So you'll be around people they're already aware of what's going on. They already aware of these higher levels of consciousness. Like Rod, he was hitting on something. He was hitting on something beautiful today, which is about the families. Mm-hmm. Like in understanding, like he said, you got to figure out how to negotiate as a sovereign your own treaty with these ruling family skirmishers, right? To put a pathway in for your people, your ancestors, your lineage. You see what I mean? So that's really all of what this is doing for us too. Is just bringing us to another level of, instead of being like children under surrogate parents waiting for Santa to come, and Superman, he also released today, Superman to come save the thing. It's more of like us just powering up into the reality of who we are, who our ancestors was, better or worst, and then standing on the shoulders of those giants and continuing to move through, and then showing how when we get into these spaces, like they already say, hey, like I own text-to-image.ai, I own generative systems.ai and those systems, because those domains, because I knew how valuable they were when the whole thing started. But the reality is that I still haven't seen anybody doing AI like us. It's like when we get in there, we seem to be able to expunge. Like if this thing can create a picture, we figure out how to make it create the best picture. And that's what we kind of bring out of anything. And that's when I'm trying to encourage everybody, like, yo, remember, it's when something has a lot of power, for sure. You're going to find folks using it for terrible things. They're doing it now. But if we can get more people that are activated, aware, and engaged into using things it's lowering the barrier entry for them, and they're able to go in and create stuff that we've been expecting to happen in this world. That's what I'm seeing it as. So yeah, I mean, just giving thanks to the tribe, giving thanks to everybody that joined in. It was a man. I saw the chat. The chat was lit. Like I clicked back in there, and that thing went.
Yeah, the chat was moving. The chat was moving and booming tonight. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We had 4,000 people the whole 2.5 hours. 4,000 people. Y'all stayed here the entire time. Listen, I appreciate y'all. Seven Beaumont, Rod Hayes, classic show. We got to do.
That's real. Ain't no coincidence. I see it in everything now to the point where I be feeling like paranoid. Be like, come on now, you can't think of everything. Got to be symbolism.
Well, stop telling yourself that, because that's where the paranoia comes from. If you go back to Elijah Muhammad said there's been thousands and thousands and thousands of signs. This shit is about to be a wrap. Elijah Muhammad said that back in the 60s. Right? So how many more signs has been given to us since then? So it's a lot of signs that we haven't been reading. We just been letting them go past, trying to fit into the society that was designed to oppress us.
Yeah, put a cage on my mind, basically. Because once I remove that prison of a thought process, then I'm able to really tap in and allow that to become a part of my intuition. But sometimes, you know, like I said, because I'm like, damn, that can't be a sign. Because like literally, it's like all day numbers. On top of that, it's like numbers to the point where I don't even look up the meaning of numbers anymore because I know them all by heart.
So that's when you start using numerology and gematria in real time, and that even fines tune the message. So the message becomes easier to assimilate when you understand what numbers mean. Because this is why you wear a watch. This is why you're supposed to wear a watch. We got cameras on our phone. Clocks on our phone now, because the every second of the day is a new set of numbers. Think about that. Every second of the day is a new set of numbers. And those same numbers several times a day are anagrams of one another. Those are what you call connection points. Right? So 24 hours in a day, but 12 months in a year. Right. So they say one day to the year. That means it took a whole year for it to happen. So in 12 and 24 is 36, and 3 and 6 is 9, and that's the turnaround.
Right. And 12 is 3. 24 is 6. And you add them together, then you get 9.
Yep. It got to be able to work frontwards and backwards in order for it to fit into an accurate read. Right? So the 369 is a code. It's a universal code for turning something around, or when you get to what we call 3-point convergence, that's GPS. So you need 3 points of convergence in order to get past the 2-point coincidence factor. Anything more than 2 is no longer coincidence. That means that pay attention. This is a real sign. Right? That's how GPS need 3 points of convergence to get you to your location.
What do they call it?
Triangulation.
Triangulation. There it is.
So that's why when you see, like when I watch a tarot card reader, I can read more into the cards than she reading, because I'm starting with how long did it take her to do this read? What do those numbers mean? Okay. Now, what's the title of the spread? Right? Because that's the theme. That's the mission statement. Right? So the mission, under the mission statements, is the details of the mission. Right? We call it the question and answer, or the query and the response. The universe is telling us something. We use an oracle means to focus the energy in, like lights going through a magnifying glass, until we can explain clearly what it is that we see. the more things that we know the meaning of, the more accurate we can get an oracle read. That's what this question right here. The answer to that is that was before the.
I can't talk to you how I can talk to them, and then let the people who close to you relay it to you. You got a problem with me, so let me call a man. Since you don't respect me enough to talk to me like a woman, I'm gonna call a man and you talk to him like that. I bet you won't. He got an attitude. He stormed off. It was crazy. But I see what you said about all skin.
Did he snap his fingers? Did he snap his fingers in the zigzag motion?
He was doing this. He was doing this. No, this. But I'm like, are you clapping at me? I'm like, yeah, no, what you got to do is stop talking to me like you crazy, boy. I was like, I'm going to call a guy and you can talk to him. He's like, no, I'm going to call my sisters. I'm like, okay, you go and do that. All skin folks, not kin folk, and they showing their colors. If you listen close, even the women that aren't on your side, they show colors immediately. It's not a compliment to tell anybody that, oh, I'm jealous of that. Like, that's not a compliment. You speak.
Soon as I hear the word jealous, it's a red flag to me. Dirty motherfuckers is on their way.
Pretty much. That's my question. The Pope in China, why is he in jail? Did you hear that? Pope? Yeah, one of the popes, one of the priests, like one of their grand priests, is in jail.
Probably for being a fag. Probably touching on little boys. I don't know. I didn't see nothing about it. But 9 out of 10, if they true to form, he probably was touching on one of them little Japanese boys over there, and to keep the Yakuza and the samurai from beheading his motherfucking ass, they decided to lock his punk ass up, dress wearing son of a bitch.
I cannot.